Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar on Tail Talk for the sales market. So today you are going to learn about dealing with animals, as Joe calls them, clients, critters, from accommodations to on-the-job safety. We are lucky today to have Joe Becker with us. Joe is a former Oregon Realtor that was licensed for 8 years. Prior to that, for 10 years, she worked for the Fair Housing Council of Oregon. Her focus there was on housing providers such as realtors, property managers, private landlords, etc. Joe has also studied animals and emergency preparedness since 2005. Today, her career consists of public speaking and writing for everyone from the housing industry and utility companies to professional and volunteer disaster responders on topics ranging from critter body language and animals in disaster to on-the-job safety and fair housing laws. She has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to fair housing issues, but we're going to have a much broader presentation today than just fair housing laws. So as always, send your questions in and Joe will answer them either throughout the presentation or at the end. Take it away, Joe.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Nice to be here, and thank you to everyone who has interest and is participating today. As a former realtor in a family team, my mother and I always loved unexpected encounters with critters in the course of our work. In fact, besides meeting new prospects, sealing a deal, shaking hands over the closing table with happy clients, one of the most fun aspects of the job for us was making friends with critters' clients, as well as pets we met while touring other agents' listings. Those for us were always good days, and as sales professionals you may come into contact with critters at any time, animals big or small, depending on whether you're involved in real property at all. Of course, a good day also means that no one gets hurt or frightened by those encounters, or that any possible legal jeopardies are avoided. So in the time we have together today, I'm going to introduce you to various critter classifications, distinguish between service and assistance animals, review the Fair Housing Act with a focus on disability protections, cover reasonable expectations for disability-related aid animals, as well as offer some tips on etiquette around working animals, and we'll wrap with a couple suggestions for keeping yourself safe when you encounter other people's animals on the job. Human professions, others with human disabilities. There are trained aid animals under the ADA, referred to as service animals, and there are not necessarily trained animals under the Fair Housing Act, referred to as assistance animals. Service animals are individually trained to do tasks that help their person, but that does not necessarily mean that the animal has a certificate or a training requirement. Because the ADA, with good reason, specifically allows the handler to do the training themselves if they wish. Under the Fair Housing Act, there is no training requirement for assistance animals, and of course no requirement to show any certification of any kind. There is still that requirement to go through the verification process, verifying the individual has a disability as defined by fair housing law and that they need the animal because of that disability. That's entirely different than requiring that the animal be trained to do a certain task. Now, there's another important distinction that I affectionately refer to as the BS factor. We saw under the ADA that a service animal is by law only a dog or sometimes a miniature horse, which is in and of itself a fascinating subject and one I enjoy going into when we have time. But the Fair Housing Act doesn't speak about animals at all. It doesn't limit it. Therefore, under the Fair Housing Act, the animal may be a dog or a cat, it may be a miniature horse or a pig, it might be a ferret or a gerbil. In fact, I have case law stories of service iguanas and service opossums. So there is no B breed or S species, no breed or species restriction under the Fair Housing Act as there is under the ADA. So very different sets of laws there. Now, under the Fair Housing Act, the emotional support animal is the perfect example. Your stereotypical depression kitty, for example, has no special skills. Its only job is to be its cute, fluffy self, giving the person with clinical depression the motivation to get up, knowing that the animal's ready with unconditional love and waiting for food and water and potty. So, ADA, Fair Housing Act, assistance animal, service animal, very different. Doggy dialects, cracking the kitty code, and honing your horse sense, aimed at enhancing bonds with your own animals and maintaining safety around others' critters. Related to animals, I also teach a class on emergency preparedness for the whole family, focused on how and why to prepare for animals great and small. And again,